Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Matt Reynolds. This is Ethan Piechota. We're here for the Pro 16 Final Selection Show. This is our third year doing this, and we are really excited to bring this show to you. We're going to start with 15U here momentarily, then 16s, then 17s, and you get the picture. But we want to explain to you how this league works. So it's a little complex. There's two finals. Obviously, we're talking about the Pro 16 Finals tonight. Only 16 NXTPRO programs at each age will make the finals. In 15s and 16s, it's exactly 16 and you're in. In 17U, well, it's 16 and you might have to wait. There might be a couple bonus due to the way it worked out this year. There is a play-in side for the last two spots. So if you're a 15 or 16, particularly in 17U, you've got to win through the play-in to get into the 32-team bracket. There's 16 teams on the Pro 16 side, both at 16U, 17U, and 15U. And as you look throughout this, Ethan, this is obviously the third year doing this. We've seen in the first year, particularly just talking 17U here, a team went all the way to the Final Four. Last year, the best we saw for a NXTPRO program was the Elite Eight, and that was Family.
Correct. It is very difficult to go the distance in the 17U Pro 16 bracket. We've seen other in different ages in the past, Matt.
Get to the championship game. No one's won, though.
I'm the next pro side. 15 and 16U is a different animal this year. So I think so. I'm not sure there's going to be any walks in the parks for NXTPRO teams anymore. But will be really interesting to see. This stage is so special for a 17U team at that level. You're going toe-to-toe with nationally ranked prospects every single game that you play when you make this bracket. Just by the nature, the eye, the spectacle, the atmosphere, everybody that's watching, it truly is a life-changing experience for a lot of these teams.
No doubt about it. Last year we saw it in Phoenix, which was the first weekend last year for 17s, Rogue take down the eventual champions, BTI. So anything could happen. Some have March for NCAA March Madness. We have July. And with that being said, each bracket, like we said, is a hair different. So we'll explain it to you, how it lays out, what it looks like. The 15s and 16s, what's so particularly different is the Pro 16 has not finished their regular season. So those 16 spots are not locked. NXTPRO has. So they're going to get an opportunity to play everyone who makes the tournament, all 16 teams at each of those ages, against Pro 16 teams in both Richmond and Bryan. Bryan will be the bracket for all three ages. Now, again, we're going to have an exciting Pro 16 17U bracket in Richmond, particularly just for those teams that are in the play-in trying to bid for those final two spots. But we've talked a lot. That's how it breaks down. One thing you should know is this is not going to impact the Orlando Finals. The Orlando Finals, every NXTPRO program will be making. And Ethan, that's obviously a big-time tournament.
That's correct, Matt. Everybody goes to Orlando. And I'll tell you this, too. There are a lot of talented teams that are not on the list that we are about to read to everyone right now that are going to be contenders in Orlando, no doubt. So if you are not one of the top 16 teams at each age for this finals in Richmond and in Bryan, you're coming in with a bit of a chip on your shoulder. And in my opinion, there's still a lot of contenders out there that could definitely shake some things up in Orlando. Obviously, coupling that with all of the teams that made the bracket in Richmond and Bryan all going to Orlando as well.
No doubt about it. Let's get into it. NXTPRO squads, you're going to have to wait. We're starting with 15U, but we're going to go through the Pro 16 standings as they are currently. Again, their regular season will conclude after Richmond for both 15s and 16s. So they're on an 8-game sample size. Their best two tournaments that they were able to pull off. And so right now we've got a lot of teams at the top in both 15s and 16s at 8-0. Let's start at 15U with the heavy NXTPRO bet favorite. And that is TME 15U squad at 8-0 on the season. West Virginia Gold joins them there along with 1 of 1. SA Future, Castle Athletics, Nebraska Supreme, and last but not least in that undefeated section is PAC out of Kansas City. At the 8th spot currently, which we've got a log jam, is Select Basketball at 7-1. We All Can Go, Coos Elite, SIP United, Team Halliburton, and then following that up with a group of teams at 13 at 6-2 is YGC, One Family, Kentucky Basketball Club, Louisiana Elite. And then at 17, you've got Las Vegas Knicks at 5-3, joined with Grand Park Premier, Southern Ties, AO Flight, Rhode Island, and 4-4 Athletics. At 23 are two teams that are 4-4, BTI United and 3D Empire. And the 25th spot is Team Museum at 1-7. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, and that is the 16 teams that have qualified as a NXTPRO squad to move up into the Pro 16 finals for not 1, but 2 weeks. Richmond and Bryan, Texas. These teams have more than earned this spot. We're going to start with team in first and go all the way down to 16. If you're in the 16 spot, you're going to be sweating. If you're in the 17 spot, you're really going to be sweating. And again, like Ethan said, everybody does go to Orlando, and we are fully expecting, whether it's Team 17, Team 20, Team 25, Team 30, we know you guys are really talented. And frankly, look, the standings bore out how they bore out. This is how it goes. So we'll start with team number 1 in the 15U NXTPRO section, which is Rise 15U Van Cleve in that top spot, Ethan.
Yeah, great year for those guys. 15U was a logjam of teams that all kind of beat up on each other down the stretch is what it seemed like. And Rise Van Cleve obviously got a couple big wins over Pro 16 teams, leading themselves to a 15-1 record and solidifying that number 1 spot.
In the second spot for 15U is Fam Elite, a team that last year we saw their program in the 17s go the furthest of any team. This time around, it's the 15U team, Ethan, that is off to a fantastic start at 14-2 on the season.
Yeah, how about that? 17s last year were by far the best NXTPRO team on the circuit. Like Matt said, Elite 8 run that ended in Indianapolis in a bit of a heartbreaking fashion. That same team stuck together, went to Nebraska the next weekend for last year's NXTPRO finals and dominated, ending in a water shower for that team as they won the NXTPRO division for 17U. And these guys, Fam Elite, they are solidifying themselves as a top program in the country down in Houston. And now reloading at 15U behind Anthony Key and Isaiah Wright, two of several names on that team that are going to make a big time impact here down in Richmond and in Bryan. They've earned the number 2 spot at 14-2, gauntlet of a schedule all year, and gonna be a real contender down the stretch.
In the third spot is A1 Elite at 14-2 on the season.
A1 Elite, led by Super Bowl champion Nelson Aguilar, his program down in Tampa just went 7-1 this past weekend in Winston-Salem, had to double up games and did so in dominating fashion. It is very hard to win 5 straight games in one day, and these guys showed grit, and they were able to guide their way to a 14-2 record. Down in Tampa Bay, this group has come on very strong in their first year with us. I expect them to make some real noise.
At the 4th spot is a team that has been with us from the beginning, and that is GSA All-Stars.
Absolutely. GSA All-Stars, fun to watch. They can come at you in a number of different angles. They have great outside shooting and great guard play. A team down in Texas, again, that has been in a lot of Southern region tournaments, which has been the strong suit for 15U, and has honestly, it's been a gauntlet, put it that way. These guys come in 14-2, another team that is going to make real noise in their spot.
And the 5th spot is Siouxland Sports Academy.
Resurrection year for James Marr and Siouxland Sports.
Way to go, James. Way to go.
Tremendous year for these guys. They handled business. They're getting to this spot, and a dangerous team with the size and skill that they have in multiple positions.
In the 6th spot, you know them well if you watched this show the last 2 years, is the Fighting Monty Patels.
They always find their way back, Matt. They always find their way back. And this time at 15U, off to you. I know if you're out there, you're probably having a watch party for the 16s and 17s as well. Well, feel solace in the fact that the 15s are definitely in. 15s coming in here, 14-2. Great year for these guys. We'll see what they can do with the big boys.
Now, the next team, look, you may have a bone to pick. It's not with me, I promise. But they are 15-1, but in the 7th spot, a large part due to strength of schedule, and that's Oklahoma Wolfpack coming in at the top 7 spot.
Absolutely. Veteran of the system, played it well, played it to their strengths, and these guys find their way back into the bracket again. Oklahoma Wolfpack. We might be seeing their name called a few more times this evening, Matt.
Hey, you'll have to hold on and wait just a little bit longer for the rest. But as for the 8th spot, it's another team that we know well, and that is KC Red Storm 15U Watson squad.
Absolutely. 14-2 record for these guys, and they wrapped up pretty early on in the season. They haven't played on the circuit for a couple of weeks now, Matt. Their last event was May 9th to the 11th weekend. So could be a little bit of rust going into July for these guys, but they handle business early, and they've obviously earned this spot as a top 10 15U team. So intrigued to see is what they'll do.
Another 15-1 squad, but they are outside the top 8 at 9. Good news for you. Doesn't really matter. You're in the tournament at 9. Missouri Flight, congratulations. You have punched your ticket.
Yeah, people have become familiar with Missouri Flight's 17U team over the past few weeks with the winning that they've done. But how about this 15U group rallying together? Back-to-back 8-0 weekends to get into this spot. This group 15-1, obviously brought down by their strength of schedule a little bit. But I think, again, it's all about who can get hot at the right time, all about who can play together. Not probably a hotter group in the country right now than this Missouri Flight 15U team.
And rounding out the top 10 is Team Oklahoma.
Handling business as they normally do. Again, you'll notice a common theme through the first 10 names have been veterans. Veteran leadership, veteran knowledge of the system. Team Oklahoma 14-2. They did it the hard way again, but proven their worth. They've had some big time matchups over the past few weekends as well. They're going to be battle tested going into July.
The 11th spot features the toughest schedule that we see of any of these 16 teams that made it. And you got to give it to them, Ethan, because they flat out earned it. And that is Above All Sports 15U squad coming in at 12-4 at the number 11 spot.
Yeah, they are a lot better than their record suggests, Matt. At 12-4, this group has great guard play. They have some real college prospects on this roster already. Speaking 2 years in advance of these kids, truthfully, really starting to get recruited. But this Above All Sports group, this is someone that nobody wants to face, especially a higher PRO16 team, because they're going to be a lower ranked next seed in that bracket potentially. Now, a lot to be done on that, so we're not going to get too far into that. But this is a group that, the way it's setting up, a big-time PRO16 team could be on upset watch early.
At the 12th spot is Team GME with a 13-3 record. You have punched your ticket to Richmond and Bryan, Texas.
What a great year for these guys. Obviously, second year on the circuit. They've got some real talent on this team. This same 14U team made a very deep run last year in the Nebraska Next Finals. Came back, started off the year super slow. I believe they were 0-4 their first weekend in Dallas. They rallied together, obviously made a big time movement, finished 13-3 and secured their spot in the finals.
And at 13 is a team that, once again, a veteran of the system, YB33 Wildcats have punched their ticket to the finals.
Same thing as GME from last year. Made a very deep run when they were 14U last year in Nebraska in the NXTPRO finals. A lot of foreshadowing there in that NXTPRO finals, which again is why it's so important. So excited to see what Orlando will bring from that this year. But YB33, congrats to them. I believe this is the first team of theirs that has ever qualified for the PRO16 finals across any age with us. And this 15U group has more than earned it.
No, congratulations to them. Another program that's been with us quite some time, and this is a very, very big night. Very, pleased to see their success paying off. They fought through, just like Ethan has talked about, in the NXTPRO finals. They have performed really well, and I feel like they've rode that momentum for this group, and that is Hard to Guard out of Colorado has punched their ticket to the PRO16 finals.
Yep, same thing as YB33, although Hard to Guard has a year of seniority over them as well. But this is the first Hard to Guard team going to the PRO16 finals. Special group. Another team that got hot late in the season, struggled a little bit to start it off, but have evened things out and have been rolling through their opponents over the past few weekends, and they come in at the number 14 spot. Congrats to those guys.
And at 15, one of the last two spots is FYN All-Stars. Congratulations. You have punched your ticket to the PRO16 finals.
FYN All-Stars, another group from Houston on this list. Houston loaded with talent at the 15U level on our circuit. These guys went toe-to-toe with a lot of the names that were above them, Above All Sports, GSA, Family, all shared similar brackets, similar pools over the past few weekends. And they come in at 12-4, great strength of schedule, and rounding out in one of those last two spots.
And the last spot, it will be good for one, and it'll be sad for a lot. But again, we bid you with, you're going to have your shot in Orlando if you miss this top 16, and you're going to have your chance to redeem yourself with a deep run in the Big O. And that is the Quad City Shockers taking, Ethan, the last spot in the 15U Pro 16 finals.
Something about this program, Matt. They always find a way to get that last 1, 2, 3 spots in, whatever it is. Quad City Shockers back again. They're no stranger to this kind of stage either. They've been here repeatedly on this circuit over the past few years. Just because they're the last one in does not mean they're going to be an easy first round exit.
All right, we've got to talk about it as we wrap up the 15U teams that made it. Unfortunately, look, you didn't make it these first 4 out, but we do want to give you your kudos. And that was AOSS 15U squad, Exclusive Hoops, Tennessee Travelers, and Prominent Elite. Again, great season. You guys keep going, keep fighting, as well as all the other teams that missed out, whether it was narrow or wide of the margin, doesn't much matter. You're all going to Orlando. You're all going to get your chance to be in the same bracket and, frankly, to prove that you potentially are the best 15U team out there. So great job from the spring season from all these clubs, and congratulations to all those 15U teams that made it. Ethan, we've got to go to 16U next, and it's only going to get better.
16U has historically been our most competitive bracket, I would say, Matt, between Pro 16 and NXTPRO over the past few years. And now we are going to get a good look at a ton of talented 16U teams, not only obviously at the Pro 16 level, where we are better than we ever have been in terms of talent, in terms of players, in terms of depth, in terms of coaching, whatever it is, but also at the NXTPRO level, where we had multiple teams go 16-0 and multiple teams that are hungry for some smoke in July.
I mean, when you look at the 16U, I think, look, it's gotten a lot better on the Pro 16 side. There's a lot more nationally ranked prospects, and that top 25 in particular, whether it's Lincoln Cosby, Zion Green, Howard Williams, Dawson Petit, the list goes on and on. There is so much talent in this bracket, but the beautiful part here is NXTPRO teams, you're going to get your shot. Before we get to the NXTPRO side, again, the regular season will conclude for Pro 16 in Richmond, so these spots are not locked in. We'll see where they end up, but let's go through the standings for the Pro 16 16U as they stand today. We've got Chapman Basketball at 8-0. They are joined by Southern Ties, Nebraska Supreme, Select Basketball, West Virginia Gold, Team Museum, and Team Halliburton, all at 8-0. The next group of teams is at 7-1, and that is YGC, Grand Park Premier, SA Future, Coos Elite, AO Flight, SIP United, BTI United, and PAC. And then our next group of teams coming in at the 16th spot, another host of teams, TME, One Family, Team CPSA, Louisiana Elite. And last but not least, in that 6-2 spot is Team Ish. The next set of teams is at 21. These teams are 5-3. As promised, 4-4, 3D Empire. Next set of teams are at 24. And they all are 4-4. That's Las Vegas Knicks, MPJ Elite, Team Scoot, Rhode Island Elite. And our final 2 teams are both 3-5 at the 29th spot. We All Can Go and Kentucky Basketball Club. Only the top 16 will make this, Ethan.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle for these groups to get into the final few spots. Obviously, some teams shaping up really well, but as we were talking about before, Matt, I think even at 8-0, you can't get too comfortable going into Richmond with it being really the last event of the regular season for Pro 16.
And particularly just touching lastly, Ethan, on this, as you pointed out, 7-1. If you are 7-1, that gets you to spot 16. That means there's one spot for a 6-2 club right now. Now, we know some of these clubs have played an easier schedule than others. I know right now, look, the reality is there's programs out there that want their shot. They're going to get their shot. Chapman Basketball has been unbelievable all season long. They've played a ton of games on our circuit. They haven't lost yet. They're going to get tested. They're going to play some of these other top teams. They have been tested, and frankly, they've won some big games. So we're going to continue to see who rises to the top and is in those top 16 teams. But anything can happen. If you're 7-1 and you go drop a dud in Richmond, you're not making the bracket for the Pro 16. Same can be said even for an 8-0 team, like Ethan said. Because, Ethan, if you go 0-4, you're toast.
100%. And on the inverse, too. If you're lower on the standing sheet right now than where you'd like to be, you got a real opportunity in Richmond to get that right. So going to be super interesting to see. Obviously, this is a new format for us as well, the way that it's happening this year. But excited to see how it pans out.
All right, let's get into the NXTPRO standings. And I know this is what all of you are on pins and needles at home for. Hopefully, I'll be able to deliver you some good news. But the reality, Ethan, is, well, there's only 16 spots. But let's start with the team in first place, and that is Mile Academy with a record of 16-0. What a season they've had.
They give me some team-ish vibes from last year, Matt, in terms of what they could potentially do. Obviously, first and foremost, what they have done at 16-0 throughout the season, but also potentially what they could do in the bracket in July. Mile Academy, one of the best 16U teams, NXTPRO, PRO16, on the circuit, regardless, does not matter. They are going to be a very, very tough out. I have them winning at least 2 games when it gets down to and honestly, that might be.
So you've got them going to the Elite Eight.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Mile Academy. That's a lot. I got to say that's a lot. He's putting a lot on the line there for you. Second place team is Exclusive Hoops. They are 15-1, Ethan.
15-1, and the crazy part about the Elite Eight is there has to be more teams that go than just obviously one. So I'm giving another bold prediction here. I'm saying Exclusive Hoops will be another member of the Elite Eight representing the NXTPRO division when we get down to it in Bryan, Texas. This team had probably the best win that I've seen from any NXTPRO team this year down in Memphis. They took down 444 Athletics and Lincoln Cosby behind a valiant performance from a number of their guys. They have size and skill on the perimeter, great outside shooting. Exclusive Hoops, another group that nobody wants to face when it gets down to it.
He's being very bold tonight, folks. Very, very bold. Rice basketball, congratulations. You have not only made the Pro 16 finals of 16U, but Ethan, they are a top 3 seed heading into it.
Top 3 seed, no surprise here either. If you knew this group from last year, this was the 15U Rice basketball group that made it to the Pro 16 finals last season. So obviously returning, bit of a chip on their shoulder as well. They've added a couple of pieces. These guys have been consistently dominant throughout play the entire season. And another group that's going to be a very, very tough matchup for any Pro 16 group when bracket play starts.
West Texas Elite, welcome to the Pro 16 finals. They are undefeated by the record 16-0. Now, look, they didn't have as strong of a schedule as some of those other teams, but now, Ethan, they're going to get their chance to play some of those top dogs.
That's the thing about strength of schedule, Matt, is that once you're in, it does not matter anymore. You can throw it out the window. Everybody's got a clean slate, a clean palette. How about West Texas Elite? First year on the circuit. They've built out from younger ages primarily. 16U is the highest age that they go. But what a season for these guys. Burst onto the scene. I know a lot of us that do our preseason predictions have them nowhere near the top. And obviously now Christian Smith, their point guard, garnering a lot of interest. And they've clearly taken their spot and made the most of this platform already. Top 4 seed for 16U.
Most notable, I think Kyle Unruh had them not here. So, hey, just saying.
Correct.
Team GME, we've talked about them already once tonight. They are in the finals for the Pro 16 as well. Congratulations to them, Ethan. What a great job they've done this season.
The 16U team, you guys can finally relax. You can join your watch party with the 15s, and you guys can go celebrate. You're in as well. Team GME, 2 teams making it. A great year for those guys. Can't say enough about what program director Jacoby McGriff has done with that group.
All right, this is notable, Ethan. When we look through this, starting at 6, no team listed further here is better than 14 wins. 14-2 is the next set of teams here. Louisiana Titans, they have made it in that 6th spot.
First year for Louisiana Titans, the Jet Life group on the circuit. Louisiana Titans has been with us for 2 years now, but this specific team has come in, again, not very high expectations from an outsider perspective on this team, but they have more than made the most of their opportunities. Left no doubt this past weekend in Norman, a couple of dominant wins over highly ranked teams to get their way to 14-2. And they come in, another really talented team that I'm excited to see more of in July.
No doubt about it. Another team at 14-2, Ethan, was Oklahoma Wolfpack. You've heard that name once. You hear it again now.
Will they go for the sweep at 17U? Anthony Baker is a veteran, and he knows how to get his teams into these kind of games, into this kind of system, and he is rolling right now 2 for 2. We'll see if he completes it with 17U. Wolfpack Mason last year at 15U was one of the best teams on the circuit. So again, Following year to year, you start to see a lot of the same teams have success because they stay together, play the right way. They've got great coaching behind them, and they're great programs. And Oklahoma Wolfpack is 2 for 2 so far, with the 17U team pending.
Another 14-2 squad is Local Legends. Been one of the best clubs that has been an addition to this year for the circuit, Ethan.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. 16 and 17U, their 15U team having a great year as well. But both 16s and 17s got off to 8-0 starts respectively. 17s have struggled a little bit over the past few weekends. We'll see if they still can get into the finals. But 16s left no doubt 14-2 after a great weekend in Winston-Salem. We'll be seeing them in Richmond, which is kind of home base for those guys in July, and then we'll obviously see them in Bryan after that.
In the 9th spot is Southern Ties, but not the Pro 16. The next squad, Ethan, has made the Pro 16 finals.
I know we talk a lot about Southern Ties Pro 16 team. This next team is no slouch either. They might not have the same caliber of players as the Pro 16 team does, but they play hard, they play together. They've played in some great tournaments and some big-time pools over the past few weekends, and they've earned this 14-2 record.
At 10 is Above the Rim. Ethan, this is a club that really battled to get here and had a tremendous season.
Tremendous finish to the year as well. Got hot super late. Second year on the circuit with us, and these guys representing their part of the country with a great run to the Pro 16 finals. Excited to see what they do in July.
This one coming up is a special one, as many are here tonight, where it is their first time as a program going to hear their name called on a stage like this, and that is Clarksville Crossover. You have made the Pro 16 finals of 16U.
13-3 record, and again, another team that has been battle tested. Last year at 15U had a very, very narrow miss of this Pro 16 finals bracket. They circle it back with the same guys. They stay in the gym. They get better. They go 13-3. They're a top 10 next pro team at 16U, and they've got a lot left to prove here down the stretch. Battle tested with the schedule that they played this year.
At 12 is another Pro 16 club that has a really good next pro program, and that is Select Basketball. We saw them do this last year, multiple ages, and Ethan, we hear them here on the 16U called for the first time this season.
17U team for Select Basketball. We'll have to wait to see if they're in the same boat. But yes, this 16U smallest team had great expectations going into the year, and a team last weekend that went to Centralia, handled the business they needed to handle to get to a 13-3 record, and we will be seeing them in Richmond.
I know this next squad is one of our favorites on our staff. Kana, she loves this group. Heart Over Hustle, 16U, has made the Pro 16 finals.
They showed some crazy heart and some crazy hustle in Norman this past weekend, Matt. I had them on the outside looking in before this weekend started, and they jumped obviously with a 3-1 record this past weekend, and some trademark wins over big time teams. Finished 13-3, have the strength of schedule to back it. Their 2 losses before this weekend were both to Pro 16 teams, so excited for these guys. They have definitely earned this spot, and honestly, they've got a lot to prove here left in July as well. Their ranking might be a little bit low compared to what their strength of schedule and who they've played throughout the year is.
At 14 in the 16U Pro 16 finals, we have history. D1 Mexico has made the Pro 16 finals, Ethan.
How incredible of an accomplishment this is for these guys, coming from a different country to play 4 events in different parts of the United States. And they started off a little bit slow. I believe their first weekend they went 1-3. They played some great teams up in Omaha, Nebraska, but they rattled off 12 straight wins to get to 13-3. And they've stuck this spot for the past few weekends, and they haven't left it. Man, this is a team that they seem a little bit unassuming when you see them for the first time, but they're going to get into you and they're going to make your life super difficult. I've got this team as a potential upset pick for a highly ranked Pro 16 team early in the bracket.
Well, they're super hot right now. That is for sure. All right, we're down to 2 spots. I know there's a lot of nervous eyes right now at 16U. Again, if you're not called here, you're going to have a good chance at Orlando to prove that you are even better than where you are currently in the standings based off this. But one of the final last 2 spots goes to, at 15, the Village Warriors.
First year on the circuit coming from North Carolina. These guys got off to a very hot start, cooled off a little bit midseason, and circled the wagons. 4-0 in Winston-Salem. They were definitely on the outside looking in before this weekend, but a major bid stealer, Matt, heading into this selection show. 13-3 record, 15th overall spot. Great stretch of basketball from these guys to get to this point.
And the last spot in the 16U Pro 16 final standings goes to another veteran, BYC Elite. You have the last spot.
Find their way back again. I know these guys are sweating out in Amarillo right now, but 16U BYC Elite, 13-3, got smoke all year long and kind of just weathered the storm, kept chipping away. 13-3, they grabbed the last spot. Again, like I said at 15U though, especially for this team that understands how to play on this kind of stage. They've been here before. They've got coaches and directors that are part of their program that are going to have their guys ready to play. Not someone I'd necessarily be hoping that I get drawn against in the Pro 16 finals.
Well, that unfortunately brings us to the part, just as we did in 15U and 16U, we'll tell you the last four that were the first four out. You've got Team Tough Basketball, Toronto Select, Team Casiago, and KC Spurs Weston just on the outside end. Again, great season. Your season's not over. Still a lot to play for in Orlando. Keep going, keep striving on, and that goes for everyone else that missed here as well. All right, we've got to take a break. We'll come back with what you've probably been waiting for quite some time, and that is the 17U selection for the Pro 16 finals. Welcome back, and I'm sure this is the segment most of you have been waiting for, 17U, Ethan, and this is always my favorite bracket. Look, it's the reality. It could change your life the most of all these. Not to say 15s and 16s can't, but college coaches, man, their eyes have been on this. We've seen this, particularly with several clubs last year. Their kids take advantage of it, and that's, of course, at the Division I level, but all the way down.
Yep, absolutely. The Mason Abbottons of the world, the Isaiah Medinas, Jalen Fenner. The list goes on and on of prospects.
Sage Twins. Guys that have taken advantage of this kind of a stage, have been on this kind of a platform, have been in this bracket, have played against the 5 stars, have gone toe-to-toe with 50-plus head coaches watching. Not them at first, but them eventually. This is a special platform. This is a special bracket. If you are in this bracket as a 17U Next Pro team, no matter where you land, your guys have some great opportunities to play at the next level in July. It's just the results will speak for themselves. No doubt about it. Now, look, this is the first one where the regular season has concluded for the Pro 16 teams, so we are cutting down to just 16 teams that made it. The other teams will have to fight with the last 2 teams in for the Next Pro side for the last 2 spots in the bracket in Bryan, Texas. Let's get to the Pro 16 teams first. And well, if you've been following, one of the surprises of the year is our top seed on the Pro 16, and that is Grand Park Premier with a record of 12-1. All these are on a 13-game sample size. When you look at what they've been able to do, it's been an accumulation of literally everybody, Ethan, for this club, and Grand Park Premier has really delivered.
Yeah, Noah Smith, Baron Walker. This team, it doesn't do them justice to highlight individual names. They play together. They're super well coached. Any matchup that they've had this year, they've gone into it with a game plan. They've been prepared. Dustin Smith has done a great job with this team. And guess what? 12-1, number 1 team on the Pro 16 17U circuit at the moment. But I'm sure they still feel a little bit spited by the lack of buzz that is surrounding this team. They're 12-1 for a reason, man. It is not easy to go 12-1 in this league. It is not sweet for a lot of these teams the first time that you're coming over. Grand Park Premier knows this, and they have been dominant throughout the spring season. We'll see if it upholds in July.
No doubt about it. Let's get to the 2 seed going into Richmond on the 17U side, which is TME. Ethan, this is a squad that is one of the most loaded squads on our entire circuit when it comes to talent.
Yep, and it starts with Tony Bryant, who I think is in for a big-time July, just with where his conditioning, where his health is, and where he's at currently. I think he is on the upswing ahead of this July session, and he's going to be the engine that makes this team go ultimately at the end of the day. Looking forward to seeing what this group does. I think we all kind of had an idea that they'd be around this range coming into the season, and no surprises for TME. Number 2 seed, 10-3. They've got a lot to prove left still.
The 3rd overall seed is going to be Team Museum, coming in at 3, led by Quincy Wadley Jr., Ethan.
Yep. Fats Wadley has proven that he is one of the best players in the country over the past few weeks. And honestly, too, I think he would be the first to tell you that he's still probably not 100%, Matt. So going to be interesting to see what he can do in July. Shane Pendergrass, Ashton Pierce, a couple other names from that team that have had really strong spring seasons as well. This team is very, very strong. It's not similar to the Museum team that they had last year, where they might have been a bit more one-dimensional, if you will. But they're well-rounded, and they've been playing with a lot of energy. I'm excited to see what this team does in July.
In the 4th spot for the Pro 16 finals, going to Richmond. Again, you've got to maintain your seed. We'll get into that and how that will go all throughout here. But it is SIP United, led by Sam Funches, top 25 prospect in the country.
Yeah, tremendous year for SIP United, their first year on the circuit. Sam Funches has been the engine that makes them go. One of the most skilled players in the country, and he's a 7-footer. Big time, long-term potential, but obviously helping them now as well with his production and with his skill set. SIP United, another team that is going to be a surefire contender.
In the 5th spot, heading into the Pro 16 finals for Richmond, is a team that is a surprise to all, not just myself, not just Ethan, but I think even they would tell you it's a surprise. And that is Kentucky Basketball Club, UR, headed to Richmond as the 5th overall seed.
Yeah, I like you said, Matt, I think they would tell you the same exact thing. Somehow, though, these guys have rallied together between Jonathan Moss and Gabe Weiss, obviously having tremendous spring seasons. This is a team that, again, not extremely assuming when you see them for the first time, but similar to Grand Park Premier, they've came in prepared. They've came in with a mindset to every single game, that every single game is going to be a war and it's going to matter, and that's led them to a 10-3 record.
The next team is potentially the more surprising on all of this list of teams that you thought might have been the number 1 team, and at one point they were. That is AAO Flight. Tough weekend in Wichita has them in the 6th overall seed, but Ethan, don't look down. They're going to be contending for everything, I think, still.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would say, especially after Memphis wrapped up, AAO Flight was the contender. They were 1A on the circuit. However, after Wichita, 1-4 weekend kind of brought them back to earth a little bit. We'll see what the Placide twins, Aiden Chronister, and the rest of those guys can put together for July. I think talent-wise, you're still probably looking at the best team on paper with that group in terms of what they could be. But a long way to go for these guys. 9-4, coming in with a bit of a chip on their shoulder as well.
The 7th spot goes to Rhode Island Elite. What a season they've had, Ethan.
Got to give a lot of credit to Nick Light and what he's done with this team, between Justin Reyes, Adama Tembito, and a number of other breakout candidates on that team. They've rallied together to a 9-4 record, and Rhode Island Elite is a tough out, man. They're not going to be an easy matchup for any opponent. This is not a fluke 9-4 record for these guys. They have earned it with every single game that they've played. They are definitely a contender in July.
In the 8th spot is a team that, look, not many had you here. Pack Basketball has not only made it into the 16, but they are in the top 8 and that 8th spot, Ethan.
Absolutely. Pack Basketball, again, from last year, the 16U Pro 16 champion. Very cool to see them return on that run. Heading into 17U, obviously going 9-4. Denton Forsyth, Kayvon Bonner, one of the best backcourts in all of the Pro 16. They've got some intriguing pieces in the front court as well with Marko Pavlovic and a couple of other guys. So intrigued to see what they do in July. Pack is here to stay.
At 9th is one of the best programs on the circuit. And frankly, they've got every chance, Ethan, I think, to still win this thing, and that is YGC.
They absolutely do, and I think these guys would be the first to tell you, too. Haven't played up to their standards yet. but they have all the talent, all the pieces to get there, all the talent to do so. They are a sleeper outright winner for me in July based on what they have in front of them. There's not going to be a whole lot that changes with this group over the next few weeks. It's going to be all about preparation and getting things right. So excited to see what YGC does in July.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. At 10 is a program that has shocked us all, and I think even shocked one Lee Loper. That is one family coming in with a top 10 record after missing this list last year, having to go through the play-in to get in. You don't have to do that this time around. You are in the Pro 16 finals. And Ethan, this is a group that, hey, they made a lot of noise this year and beat some teams that not a lot of people had them beat.
No, not at all. I mean, but tremendous year from these guys. They've just stacked wins. Winning matters. Winning is important, and they've embodied it. They came in with probably next to no expectations in terms of what they were going to produce on the circuit. But a 9-4 output speaks a lot to the coaching, a lot of the people that they have in that program that are still strong. Again, our first ever champion at 17U, Matt, at the start of the Pro 16 League a couple years back. That championship DNA still runs strong here with one family.
Definitely does. Next team that we will announce is a team, a program that we expect a lot from because they've delivered year in and year out. And that is, at the 11th spot, Select Basketball with an 8-5 record is the first 8-5 team, Ethan, to be in the Pro 16 Final 16 bracket.
Absolutely. These guys, I call what they do selecting you because it seems like you hang around in games with them for a while and then all of a sudden you check the scoreboard, there's 3 minutes left in the first half and you're down by 17. However, bit of an underwhelming year for these guys so far.
We're disappointed.
Per their standards.
No, we're disappointed. Let's just call it what it is. We're disappointed.
Clint Ordeman obviously moving into a bit of a Brad Stevens role, as they call it. General manager, player coach.
Yes.
Andy Harrington taking over the keys for 17U. He's got a lot of talent on this roster. They have.
Will we see Clint come back in July? That's a storyline.
Big talking point.
Something we got to talk about.
Either way, Select Basketball, it's like clockwork for them. They are in this bracket once again, and everything's wiped clean at that point. They've got the talent to be able to make a big-time run. We'll see if they can put it together.
And here's the deal. Andy is one of the best coaches out there. He just was selected here recently for a USA spot to be one of the coaches with one of the teams they're putting together for the United States of America. So the guy can coach. They haven't forgotten everything, but they've got to have some better output from some guys. And frankly, they're dealing with a few injuries. So we'll see how they deal with that. Now, the next team is someone that everybody thought coming into the season could be a favorite. And I think this speaks to just how talented and how deep the league is, Ethan. At 12 is Team Scoot.
Yeah, and honestly, Matt, if it weren't for a 17-point comeback win over Team Utah in their final game in Wichita a couple weeks back with 7 minutes left and a heroic effort from Alex Costanza, this team probably would be looking at maybe the play-in bubble. I'm not so sure if we'd feel so safe right now with them being at 8-5. Team Scoot, again, though, they were preseason favorite to win it all. I am still confident in that take if you were one of those that had that thought on it. But we'll see. They got a lot of work to do. They're going to come in as a bit of a lower ranked seed for who's left in the field, but they've got the talent to be able to make some noise.
At 13, punching their ticket into the top 16 bracket on the Pro 16 finals for 17U is SA Future, led by Donovan Chris. And what a season Donovan and SA Future has had, Ethan.
Absolutely. Donovan has been fantastic all year long. Isaiah Ward, one of their big names, out battling injury throughout the spring. It is incredible that this group has.
Maybe he comes back. It's possible.
Would be a huge,
There's a real chance.
Taylor Todd as well had a monster weekend in Wichita.
Picked up a Louisiana offer.
Yep, amongst a couple of others. And so those two guys have been able to kind of right the ship. Isaiah Ward coming back vaults this team into
it's like a trade deadline deal.
Absolutely. Vaults this team into a different category. Rounding out, again, one of those top locked-in spots, but another team that is in that Scoot and Select category where, man, this could flip in an instant.
And last year we saw SA Future was a team that made a run. They went from the play-in game all the way to the Final Four. Now, we're getting down towards the end. And look, if you're in the Pro 16 and we haven't called your name, going to be honest. You should be sweating. Your palms should be very, very sweaty at this point because there's not many spots left. The next spot goes to an historic season from this team. The first team in the history of the Pro 16 NXTPRO League to be elevated in season from NXTPRO to Pro 16 was OTP. And they now pay that off. Ethan, OTP has punched their ticket into a top 16 spot and into the Pro 16 finals as a Pro 16 program, Ethan. Impressive at 17U.
Incredible. They started the year 4-0 in Atlanta as a NXTPRO team.
Which got thrown out when they got moved
that
up.
out the door. Did the same thing in Indianapolis a couple weeks back. Had to throw that out the door. And then got thrust into 13 games in the 13 games that were full of smoke. Colin Ross is a big-time prospect. He has proved that throughout the regular season. Greg Howard, Jackson Williams, two of their big-time guards as well. Team is well coached. Team is more than earned it. Obviously, again, judging just by their path to get here, coming from NXTPRO to Pro 16 midseason, the first ever program to do that or have that happen to them, and they followed it up with immediate output, immediate results.
We've got 2 spots remaining here in the Pro 16 finals. All of the other teams that are not called on the Pro 16 side will still go to Richmond. They'll still go to Bryan. But you have to fight for 2 spots, and it will not be easy. At 15 is a team we know really well, and they made a really deep run last year. A really deep run, all the way to the Final Four. That is one of one. LaMelo Ball's program, Ethan, has fought through a lot of injuries and adversity this year. They're well coached. They defend well. They've got 2 dynamic guards. They've got a dynamic wing. They have all the pieces to make a deep run.
Absolutely. LJ Rush deserves a lot of credit for his play throughout the spring. King Sanders right there too. This team, again, has a lot of talent. Like you said, probably a preseason favorite amongst a lot of people as well. Slipping their way down the standings a little bit, but
they're in though. They're in. So you got it.
Continue to say, palette gets wiped, and we've got a fresh slate ahead of you. So 1-1 in at the 15 spot.
The last team in the Pro 16 finals on the Pro 16 side at spot 16. A lot of you are really nervous. And there was a deadlock, if you look at as far as the standings goes, of 7 and 6 teams. 1 of 1 was one of those. They had the hardest strength of schedule. This team had the second hardest strength of schedule out of those 7 and 6 teams and was very, very close to even overtaking, as they had a very, very tough schedule. That is West Virginia Gold. You have made the Pro 16 finals as the final team guaranteed to be in the finals bracket. Congratulations on punching your ticket to the Pro 16 finals. Ethan, what a run from TJ and Eli.
TJ and Eli, man, one of the best duos on this circuit by far. Eli Sankum, not sure if there has been a bigger riser on our circuit, honestly. I know he doesn't get the national spotlight like some of the other guys, but just from a straight riser standpoint, man, he has made waves over the past few months. West Virginia Gold, too. A lot of people might not be familiar with them as a program with us, Matt. They originally were a NXTPRO program.
They started as an NXTPRO program.
Went to Pro 16 last year.
Yep.
Struggled, might I add. Struggled mightily. This year, they've righted the ship, and they're in the bracket. Congrats to those guys. Tremendous job of handling business in the spring.
Yeah, great job from Jawan, from Rodney, and that whole group. All right, so if you didn't hear your name in the Pro 16, you missed it. But good news for you is you still have a chance. So all those clubs that did not hear their name, you know who you are. We're not going to call you out. We're not going to put you on blast. But you still got a great opportunity. 2 teams that did not make this will end up making the final bracket. But before we get to that, and before we get to all of how it's going to work out, we've got to talk about the NXTPRO side. Because we have 28 Pro 16 teams, to balance out the scales, Ethan, 2 extra NXTPRO teams, 2 are going to get in this. Now they're going to be in the play-in. So teams 15, 16, 17, and 18 will be in the play-in. But we're going to be able to go to 18 teams, which doesn't happen every year. Last year, it did happen sort of similar to this. But you go based on that And so you're going to have teams that miss the play-in for the Pro 16. There's going to be 4 pools of 4 teams. But that leaves 4 teams from the next pro side to jump into that, which gets us to 18, which is pretty big news and a pretty big break for those 2 clubs.
Absolutely big time break. And adds to the suspense of this all. If you felt like you might have been on the outside looking in before that was just reported and before that was just said, you might have some new life coming to you. It's not over yet. So, I mean, again, regardless, if you're in that top 14 for next, if you're in that top now 18 teams, whatever it is, this platform will provide in July. It does not really matter at that point too much.
Once you're in, you're in. That's the thing.
Brian,
if you're in the play-in,
right.
If you're in the play-in, listen, if you're in the play-in, even if you're team 18 and you don't get through the play-in, you get to go to Brian and you still get to play all the Pro 16 teams that missed.
Absolutely.
Which you look through this list of Pro 16 teams, my goodness. You got MPJ, Team CPSA. They got freaking 2 top 50 level dudes. They missed. They missed. You're going to get a chance to play them potentially. Now, again, we'll get to that. The top 14, you're locked in. You're in the bracket automatically. Team 15, 16, 17, and 18. Those are the teams, Ethan, that, again, you're in the play-in. You've got to earn. There's 2 spots on the line. And you'll get to play all those Pro 16 teams matched up in pools, and we'll continue to break down that once we get to that part. But first, let's get to the number 1 overall seed. The number 1 overall seed from the Next Pro side for 17U that has made the Pro 16 finals with an undefeated record. The Florida Bayhawks, Ethan, have punched their ticket.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people saw this one coming early on in the year. These guys started off hot. This is the same 16U team from last year, although they did add a couple of pieces as well that performed really well last year, made the Pro 16 finals last year. They've run it back. They're the number 1 17U team. They've got a number of pieces between Nick Merman, Sam Reindl, Diego Brito on this group, RJ Ingram. This is not a team that you want to see, and they've repeatedly shown that they belong here and that they can win big-time games. 4-0 in Wichita in the top pool a couple weeks back. Florida Bayhawks, they're a real contender.
No doubt about it. And they're a team you do not want to see. In the 2nd overall seed, headed to Richmond, a historic day for this program. And I mean a historic day. Not 1, not 2, but 3 teams from this same program have made it. 1 at 15s, 1 at 16s, and 1 at 17s. Making the case for potentially the best Next Pro program in Oklahoma. I think you got to talk about it. Oklahoma Wolfpack. You are the 2 seed headed to Richmond. Ethan, what a day for Anthony Baker and this program. This is a historic day for Wolfpack.
3 for 3 for these guys, man. And again, this team started off a bit slow. I believe their first weekend in Dallas, they went 1-3, but right at the ship, weathered the storm, and they end up as the number 2 overall 17U team. Oklahoma Wolfpack goes 3 for 3. Clean sweep across the board. Program dominance for these guys that have been with us since day 1.
And the 3rd overall seed and the Next Pro side that has punched their ticket to the Pro 16 finals is no stranger. Cap City Scrappers, Ethan.
Yep. Again, this group finds their way back. I believe 17U, this has been 3 straight years.
Yes, it has.
They have had a 17U team.
Legendary run.
Finals bracket. Consistency across the board. And this team has beaten up on some Pro 16 groups throughout the regular season. Authentic 15-1 record. They have been squarely in the mix all the way through, and they are looking to make some more noise in July. Congrats to the Cap City Scrappers holding down for the Northeast.
Don't be surprised if any of those top 3 seeds win, and don't be surprised if this next club makes the deepest run out of any of the programs in 17U, because they're veterans, and that is in 4th. No shock to any of us. The record of 15-1 is rogue basketball. And look, Coach Barber, one of the best out there. I give the kudos to Wolfpack earlier. I still do, because 3 for 3 is tough to do. But when you talk about a crown for 17U in Oklahoma, this club, they've had the crown. They've been carrying it for Next Pro side for quite some time. And this is history in the making. They got a great team.
Did we really think after a 2-2 start that they wouldn't somehow find their way back into this mix again, Matt? I mean, it's just like clockwork with these guys. Every single year they produce. That's been the common theme in terms of this top 5 as well, is consistency, repeated members of this group. And Rogue, again, 2-2, their first ever weekend in Norman with us back in April. Colton Brommer and Destin Edwards, probably one of the better backcourts that I've seen this year, regardless, NXTPRO, PRO16, whatever you want to call it. And you round out around that group with a number of talented skill position guys that have size and skill and can really play in multiple different positions and do different things on the court to impact winning. This Rogue team, 15-1. What a run for them, and they are probably a little bit underseeded based on how well they're playing right now.
They are not someone you want to run into. I'll put you that way. Coming in at the 5th spot in the top 5 with also a 15-1 record is the NJ Bulldogs, Ethan. What a season for them.
NJ Bulldogs holding it down for the Northeast, the second member of that Northeastern region to get in. Will there be another? Guess we'll have to wait and see. But Malcolm Sobey and his group, they get into the top 16. They finish as one of the better NXTPRO teams on the circuit after a dominant showing this past weekend in Providence, Rhode Island. They've got size and skill. They play very tough. They're going to get into you. This is a group that is going to not back down from a challenge, and they're going to play in front of some very big crowds over the next few weeks. Excited for these guys.
Okay, Oklahoma's been a big theme. Well, it stays the same at 6. Team Oklahoma. What a season they've had, Ethan. And yet another Oklahoma squad, 3 in the top 6.
Yeah, how about that? How much talent is in this state, and Team Oklahoma does it again. This group was special from start to finish. They've kind of stuck in their claim. There was a game they played against Florida Bayhawks in Plano back a couple weeks back, I believe, at the end of April, where it was very clear that these were 2 top 10 teams in 17U on the NXTPRO circuit. And needless to say, a month later or so, we see both of them punching their ticket to Richmond. So congrats to Oklahoma, Team Oklahoma.
The next club that we're about to name in the 7th spot has to be a little nervous because they were the top dog coming into this last weekend. And it just shows you every game, every single game on this circuit counts because they went from the top spot all the way down to 7. The good news for you is you're in. And that is Dale Lambert. Missouri Flight, you have made the PRO16 finals as a 7th overall seed. And Ethan, again, some tough games, particularly that rogue matchup in Oklahoma, but it works out for them.
Absolutely. These guys are definitely tested. They really burst onto the scene in Wichita and kind of emerged as, okay, they are not pretenders. These guys are real contenders. A win over 101, a win over the best Australian team in the program that had just beaten AAO Flight the game before. Crazy atmosphere for that game. And
Chance of USA.
Chance of USA raining down, and a bit of a controversial loss to the Florida Bayhawks team that came in at number 1 as well. If you'll remember correctly, just put out the video, but probably one of the wildest endings to a youth basketball game that I've ever seen. People running on the court, technical fouls from Missouri Flight after they hit a game-winning 3. Gotta imagine that's sitting in the back of their minds, Matt. They feel like they should have won that game against Florida Bayhawks. That Florida Bayhawks team might not have been undefeated.
No, they might not have. Look, John, solo shot here. Let me make sure and say this. Coach, you cost your team. You cost your team. Don't run on the floor. When there's time on the clock, do not run on the floor. Because, Ethan, frankly, they're 7. They would have been in the top 3 seeds. At least. Even with the loss last week.
100%. 100%. Nevertheless, though, this is a group, Missouri Flight. They are playing, 9 or 10 deep, and every single one of those guys is invested in every single minute of every single game. They kind of have that look. They have that feel of a group that can make a really deep run, not only in Richmond and in Bryan, potentially in Orlando down the line as well.
Look, I think they could win the whole thing. Any of these teams, frankly, any of these teams we're talking about tonight. And, again, if we don't mention you, it doesn't mean you don't have a shot. Like, the reality is 17s is so deep. So for Ethan, for those out there, how many teams went 13-3 in the 17?
34 teams went 13-3. That is by far the biggest number that we've ever had. In the past, if you went 13-3, you didn't even watch this selection show.
Hey, it just shows Orlando, we too deep. It's a deep, deep bracket. So you look at the top 50, they all arguably could say, oh, well, on any given day, we could beat any of these teams in the top 10. But you didn't. So we're going to move on. Team 8 is a team that, look, we've been following this team. They've been with us every year of the circuit. They're one of our favorites. They do a great job. And it's only fitting that this year, in their last season, with this great player that they've had, they punched their ticket to the Pro 16 finals. Team FBV, you are headed to the Pro 16 finals as the 8th overall seed from the NXTPRO side. Congratulations.
Contenders for sure, Matt. I've kind of pegged them as one of those groups from the very beginning. This same group, I remember from 2.5 years ago, playing on the first ever Pro 16 League circuit as a 15U team was a problem. Champ Parker, Amir Danforth, and a couple of those other names really shook things up back in our first ever year of the Pro 16 League in the 15U bracket. They return to this championship bracket at 17U. There might not have been a team that's had a harder schedule than this Danforth group. They played straight smoke in Wichita, and they're ready to go, man. I'm excited for this team. I think, frankly, they're a little bit underseeded. They are a definite contender to make some noise here.
And Amir Danforth just committed here recently to North Dakota State University. Just another success story, Ethan, of what this circuit can do. You play on a stage, you get opportunities. He had multiple Division I offers and decided to go ahead and commit.
Absolutely. Amir Danforth having a great year as well, shooting the ball at a super high level, but excited for the rest of that team as well to get the opportunity to shine on a big stage and have some real opportunities come their way.
The next club is not a surprise if you've been following the Pro 16 for any amount of time, because this is what this program does. We talked earlier, we were a little disappointed with where their Pro 16 squad was, because we know how talented they are, we know how well coached they are, and frankly, the ball just didn't roll their way at certain times. But coming in at number 9 is Select Basketball Henshaw with a record of 14-2. Ethan, this is a team that they can't be taken lightly because they could easily upset somebody when it comes to the bracket on the Pro 16 side in the first round.
Absolutely. And this Henshaw group is red hot too right now. They had to go to Centralia and go at least 3-1 to be on that 13-3 bubble. They straight take care of business. 4-0 in Centralia this past weekend, 4-0 in Wichita the weekend before that. They're red hot right now, and they're trending upwards, and obviously they finish as a top 10 NXTPRO team at 17U.
All right, last but not least, in the top 10 is Castle Athletics. Ethan, this club, they've had a fantastic season, and frankly, I'm sure they're watching this show saying, wait, we're 10? We're 10 with the record we had? What's happening? But strength of schedule, not as good as some.
Absolutely. They did handle business in Rhode Island this past weekend to be able to get themselves a locked-in spot for sure. Castle has been dominant this year. If you look down the standings list from 15U on down, 14, 12, 13, 11U, you're probably finding them near the top. 17U, I'm not so sure we had the same expectations for them, and they've kind of burst on and made their way through. They've won basketball games consistently throughout the year, and they round out that top 10 with a 15-1 record.
There's 4 spots remaining that are guaranteed inside the bracket. You are in the bracket. You don't have to sweat it when you go to Richmond. You're in the bracket. There's 4 left. The next club that has their name called for the first time, I might add, in the history of their club, in the biggest bracket, 17U, is none other than the Tennessee Travelers. You have made the Pro 16 finals. Ethan had to make them sweat a little bit, but what a run they've had.
Absolutely. Great run for these guys. Started 8-0, left Memphis 11-1 with their sole loss being to an MPJ Pro 16 team on a last-second shot. Went up to Cincinnati this past weekend, finished it off with a 3-1 record, obviously 14-2 now. This is a talented group, man. They're unassuming when you see them for the first time. They play hard, they play together. They run great stuff, and again, going to be a big July for these guys. Excited to see the opportunities that come for their kids.
In the 12th spot is a club that you heard their name earlier in the show. They were on the Pro 16 side for 16U. Their 17U, their top team is not Pro 16, so they had to come through this NXTPRO side on the bracket, and that is Chapman Basketball, which has been one of the most prominent clubs as you look throughout our history, Ethan, that has performed day after day after day, and they got here with 14-2 record.
A lot of people in 17U are probably looking around saying, where in the world did Chapman Basketball come from? Because they've kind of been on that fringe all year, Matt. They haven't necessarily been a top team. You're not seeing them on in the Instagram graphic every single week, first four in, last four out. And all of a sudden, Joe Chapman's rallying his guys with back-to-back strong weekends. They finished 14-2 after dominating in Milwaukee this past weekend, their hometown. And they take that dominance, that stretch of dominance, straight into Richmond in July. Chapman Basketball, Marcus Webb, one of the best guards on this circuit. Excited to see what they have in store for July. They are playing really, really well at the right time.
At 13 is a club that they've been here before, but they're the first team on this list at 13 wins. Some of you out there are going to wonder why. Go look at who they played. They played the hardest schedule, literally, of 17U. If you look at it, they went 13-3, and they've earned this spot, and that is Team Utah. Ethan has punched their ticket for the second straight year into the Pro 16 finals.
And we talked earlier, Matt, about Team Scoot obviously finishing 8-5 and getting a big-time late come-from-behind win over this Team Utah group. Their last game in Wichita, it was a great ride home for Team Scoot. It was probably a very, very long flight home for Team Utah to Salt Lake City. I'm not sure if
that connection was tough.
I'm not sure if there was a team that left more on the table, to be honest with you. To put themselves on the 13-3 bubble, one win away from probably solidifying themselves as a top 5 NXTPRO team, 14-2 record, win over a Pro 16 team. These guys left a lot on the table. They know it. However, they get in here as the highest rated 13-3 team, not even close. They actually graded out over our next group, which finished 14-2. And Team Utah is here to make some noise, man. Ayman Ishmael, probably the riser of the spring for their group, picked up an Oklahoma City offer while he was in Wichita, and looking for a big spring for him as well.
All right, you heard Ethan there. If you had 13 wins, sorry about you. You're not going to be in the top 14. So that takes the suspense out for some, but there's still that team out there that is saying, wait a second, well, we had 14. Are we in? You are in, Prominent Elite. What a run, Ethan, to get the last spot in when, after the first week of the season, frankly, they looked really bad.
Matt, I thought these guys were absolutely dead in the water after their first weekend performance in Seal Beach, and they might have thought so too. Actually, I think everybody might have thought so, except for program director Ayers Winder, who rallied his guys together and repeatedly kept saying, that first weekend, it didn't even happen. It didn't even happen. And all of a sudden, they're 14-2. They found their way through. They took care of business in Wichita. They played the long game, heading for a big-time July. There probably isn't a program in the circuit that understands the importance more than they do of this upcoming July stretch for their guys.
All right, so hang on. Don't turn off the TV. Don't click off YouTube, because we still have some spots to hang out. These spots that we are about to hand out aren't in the bracket just yet, but you could get into the bracket. You have a chance, and you're going to get to play against all these other Pro 16 teams that missed. There's 2 spots remaining. Here they go. Self-made ballers. You are coming in with a chance in the play-in to earn your spot into the bracket for Richmond and Bryan, and automatically, again, no matter what, for all these 4 teams we're about to name off, Ethan, they're going to get Pro 16 games and a big, big stage.
Yeah, and how about this self-made ballers group, Matt? Honestly, 12-0 going into Wichita. They got 1 win in Wichita to put themselves on the 13-3 bubble. 3 losses. Their 1 win over YGC. So a tremendous group that has somehow rallied together. They took 3 losses to NXTPRO groups that are all ranked above them, which shows the depth, shows the talent of the names that we've read off to this point. They finished 13-3. that YGC win carried a ton of weight for this group and led them to this 15th play-in spot. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be saying their name here.
Hey, big time opportunity. You won the right game. If you won any, we actually ran this. If they would have won any other game, went 1-3, and hadn't beat YGC, they're not in. So it shows the importance of strength of schedule and how this all works out. The next club is one that you've heard, well, quite a bit. And that is AO Flight 17U NXTPRO squad, Ethan, is in the Pro 16 finals. They've got to play their way through the play-in bracket.
Yeah, great story for these guys. Happy for them. One of the only teams on this list to have beaten Rogue all year long, and that came back in Norman in April. So obviously a big stretch from AAO Flight. A lot of their guys have been on this circuit in different roles for a number of different years, and now they're kind of culminating everything with a big time 17U showing in Richmond and in Bryan in July. Excited for the opportunities that are going to come.
Most years, we would be done right now. We'd be it. But in this year, with the way it worked out, with the number of Pro 16 teams, we need 2 more to fill out the play-in bracket. So 2 extra NXTPRO teams, 2 bonus teams get a chance to play in that play-in bracket. The first team that gets that opportunity is Team Ish.
Yeah, crazy. And honestly, one of the groups that I thought might grade out a little bit better than they did, but obviously they didn't. However, with how it shook out this year, redemption for Team Ish. They get another chance. They're going to be able to play in that big bracket with the same opportunity as everybody else. So Team Ish sneaks their way in 13-3. They definitely have the track record. They definitely earned it to this point. But obviously with the way the bracket shook out, not an easy route to get their way in.
There's not a more intriguing bracket than this. When you have 50 teams, 50 that are above 13 wins. 50. It's incredible. Last team for the final spot is Team Miami. Congratulations. You've punched your ticket. You're on the play-in side, but you are in the Pro 16 finals. Ethan, I know they were sweating it. This was a group that had a great year. And man, they were close to missing it, but they were the last team in.
Started off so hot, held the number 1 seed in 17U for a number of straight weeks. They dropped down a little bit over the past few weeks, struggled in Wichita a little bit too, left a lot on the table. However, Team Miami in their first year of their program, first year of the circuit, they've done some great things, and they punched their ticket here at 13-3. I will say I have never seen a group of teams separated by less than who was right behind them, Matt, by 0.02 percentage points. When you put it all together, we're the 19th and 20th ranked teams on the circuit. So a matter of points, a matter of layups, missed layups,
everything matters.
Turned into threes, missed free throws, whatever it is. Point differential might have been the factor here. Ultimately, we got Miami in, but they rounded out at the 18th spot, and excited for their group as well.
All right, it's the dreaded first 4 out graphic that John's got to throw up. And again, look, first 4 out teams, you guys had a great season. And again, as we said, 13-3, there was over 30 teams that were 13-3. So a lot that we feel like can go to Orlando and win. You got to take this and work on it. Get better, continue to work, and make your strides for Orlando. But the first 4 out that just narrowly missed it, Born to Win Basketball, Grand Park Premier, Off to You, and TME Next. Those are your 4 teams that just narrowly missed. Ethan, what's your thoughts about the 17U?
It's deep, and I think a lot of these teams, the runs that they make are going to be very matchup dependent. I do see that group of 5 to 10 top groups or so extending down to Team Utah, having a chance to make pretty sizable runs, meaning winning 1 or 2 games when it comes time for bracket play. Yeah. But again, a lot can shake based on the seeding that I know you're going to wrap up talking about here at the very end. On the algorithm standpoint, a lot of people will have questions. How does this all work? This is the 3rd year that we've been running it. To put it into layman's terms, roughly 65% of what goes into it is your overall win-loss record. 30% of it is your strength of schedule that kind of encapsulates who you played throughout the year, the teams that were potentially ranked above you or ranked below you, the Pro 16 teams that you played, the Pro 16 teams you lost to or beat. And lastly, about 5% of it is your point differential. That's not an exact number or an exact depiction of exactly how it works, but those are all the variables that go into it. And that's led us to having a bracket that we feel like has the top 16, or I guess in 17 use case, top 18 teams at each age heading into Richmond and into Bryan.
Think BCS. If you remember college football, it is a computer system at the end of the day that we use. It's not based on what he thinks, what I think, what John thinks, what David thinks, what Justin thinks, what Kana thinks, and what anyone else in our company thinks for that matter. It is purely based on what you do. Now, let's talk about the teams that made it, how it's going to work. For 16U and 15U, it's pretty simple. The seeds aren't set for the Pro 16 side. They are set for the Next Pro side. So Next Pro, you're going to go to Richmond. You're going to get great games against Pro 16 teams. Frankly, you're playing with house money. Nothing can impact you there. For the Pro 16 side at 16s and 15s, you're playing to get into as you're finishing the regular season with a 12-game sample size. For 17U, we're doing it exactly how we did it last year, which a lot of people loved. People want to see the best against the best. And so what you're going to see is pools that are broken down. On the 17U side for Pro 16, we will take the best 3, starting with 1, 2, and 3 on the Pro 16 side, with the best 4 from the Next Pro side. So you're guaranteed to see the Florida Bayhawks play Grand Park Premier, TME, and Team Museum. Those matchups are going to happen. And frankly, look, the Bayhawks, as well as those other top 2 seeds, Oklahoma Wolfpack and the Cap City Scrappers, you guys have earned that. Here's the beautiful part. That pool, you can only go up and down with what is in your pool. Meaning, the Florida Bayhawks can go from 1 to 3, but that's as much as they can drop because of what's in their pool. Same thing goes on the Pro 16 side. They can drop from 1 potentially down to the bottom of that pool at 3, but they can't drop any further than that. Frankly, you're locked into a top seed, but again, it puts the emphasis on playing the best with the best, and you're grouped together. So it continues on, and we'll put these out on our Instagram platforms as well as X and everything else that we use as we go throughout the week. So you'll see these matchups in these pools, but just again, to give you another running one, the second pool will be SIP United, the 4 seed on the Pro 16, the 5 seed Kentucky Basketball Club, and the 6 seed AAO Flight against the 4 seed Rogue, NJ Bulldogs, the 5th seed, Team Oklahoma, the 6th seed, and the 7th seed Missouri Flight, and so on. The last part is one of the most fun parts about week 1 of the Pro 16 finals that will be in Richmond, and that is how the Pro 16 finals gets their last 2 spots. You've got those 4 teams, 15, 16, 17, 18 on the Next Pro side, and then you've got teams 17 through 28 on the Pro 16 side. They'll be broken into 4 pools, which again, will come out later on our social media platforms. Be sure to watch those. From those 4 pools, you're going to get 4 teams, the top team in each pool, but it can only be 2 spots. So then from that 4 set, we'll go down to 2 and play to a final 2. Those final 2, based on who comes through and has the best showing in Richmond of those 2 teams that make it out, one team will get the 15th spot, one team will get the 16th spot, and we'll have our 32-team bracket. We're really looking forward to seeing you guys out and about in July. It'll be here before we know it. June is upon us here shortly, but as you look at the season, frankly, there's still lots of people to play for. We talk about if you missed this, Orlando is still there. If you made it, Orlando is still there. Richmond is obviously there if you made it. So is Bryan, Texas. Those are going to be big events, but it starts July 4th weekend. July 4th weekend is a way to continue to help yourself in Orlando. The better seed you can get in Orlando, the better position you put yourself in to win a Next Pro national, no, not national, global championship. That's right. We've got teams from Mexico, teams from Puerto Rico, teams from Australia, teams from China, teams from Canada. What am I missing?
I think you covered all the bases. Obviously from the United States as well. One thing to add to that too, Matt, so many names that we just read off on this list have come from the tree of winning that Next Pro finals. It previously was held in Nebraska, but now obviously moving to Orlando, you look at a program like PAC. They finished 9-4 at the 17U level last year. They won their way into the spot at 16U last year in Nebraska.
They were a Next Pro team, if you didn't know.
Correct.
Now they're Pro 16 because they won. It's what happens when you win.
It's the proof is in the pudding there. I think also another big thing too, Richmond and Bryan, if you're in these championship brackets, great. If not, every single year the open division that we have there has a lot of smoke, has a lot of talented teams that are probably a little bit ticked off because you just narrowly missed the boat. Those open divisions will be held in the same exact places. They'll be played in the same exact gyms in front of the same exact people. Definitely big time events to make sure that you're attending throughout the summer.
No doubt about it. We're going to have all the college coaches. GA48 will be back with us in Richmond. It's a fabulous event that pairs really well with us, and it's going to be a really fun time. So, frankly, we got a lot of great things in Richmond. Hey, how about this? We got free theme park tickets. Free theme park tickets, King's Dominion, for everybody. Not just one of you, not just one team, not just, NXTPRO's favorites, which we don't have. We've got them for all of you. So, we're looking forward to it. Big July. Lots coming. Stay tuned. And as for what's next, see you July 4th. Ethan, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Excited for July. As always, a lot of opportunities coming. Not going to go out and stake my favorites yet at every single.
I was gonna say, did you want to make any picks? You made 2 bold predictions early on. I didn't see any more bold predictions.
17U, PRO16, give me select basketball. I think they're coming back.
I'm sorry, did you just say select basketball to win it?
The champion.
My goodness.
When it's all said and done.
Hot takes. Hot takes. Well, with that said, that's all we got, folks. See you later.